Hey everyone, today I'm going to talk about Linux. I'm going to continue to... Hey everyone, today I'm going to continue my talk about Linux. This time I'm going to be discussing things that are most likely to confuse the daylights out of a new user from my own perspective as a new user. I have not even come close to mastering Linux in any way, shape, or form. I have some of the basics down, but there is still so very much for me to explore and to learn. Uh, as it is my last video, I pointed out several things about Ubuntu, and I had mentioned Ubuntu itself was derived from Debian, and the new user will notice one specific thing about Linux, other than the way it looks and the way it acts and the fact that it differs in so very many ways from Windows, is that for each, I guess you would call it, main derivative, like Ubuntu, you will find several other Linux versions, distributions, that themselves, they are derived from Ubuntu. They used Ubuntu as a base and then went from there. Compounding the confusion is also, I mentioned in the last video, the desktop environment. I mentioned Ubuntu. If memory serves me, this is the Unity desktop environment, which, I mean, it's okay. It does take some time to get used to, but there are a lot of different environments out there, and many distributions themselves, their desktop environment is actually a tweak of another desktop environment. This is one of the things about open source that makes it really wonderful, and it can also be very challenging when somebody like me, a longtime Windows user, is getting into this, is having to learn about Linux. So this video I'm going to quickly, well, as quickly as I'm able to, go over a few of the derivative distributions. Specifically, I will be talking about Bodhi, Chalet OS, Linux Mint, and Zorin. And I will try to be as brief as I can, or as I am able. So, let's get going. So I did say that I was going to show Bodhi, or however it's pronounced, first. Unfortunately, it's not being overly cooperative at the moment, so I'm going to skip that and go here to Chalet OS. Chalet OS, I would say, would be very good Linux distro for somebody coming off of Windows, because the desktop environment definitely has more of a Windows feel and look about it. You can see that it has like a start button down here, Chalet OS. It has this taskbar, user files and apps over here, system-based items over here. It has, of course, your icons shown over here on the left. It even has this friendly little clock. I actually rather like that, though I'm sure some people would think that it gets in the way. I'm not certain which desktop environment this is, but I mean, that's going to be for a totally different video. I'm actually going to get a little more in depth into desktop environments. But this is a derivative of Ubuntu, as are all the versions I'm going to show. However, there are some different things about it. It does have an application center, which of course is very nice. You know, if you just want to find a one-stop place to get apps for your OS, that's good. As most distributions tend to do, as I've pointed out before, it comes with Firefox. You have your file manager, of course, My Computer. You've got your nice little compartments here for your different applications, your accessories, you know, an archive manager, something like 7-zip or whatever, Catfish file search. I suppose that is the particular search, you know, local search protocol that you have, or not protocol, app. A quick link to Soren OS website, character map, always need that. You can change your preferences. You can go from having a panel / taskbar down here to a dock for a more, I guess, Mac OS approach. I haven't actually messed with this, so that may be something I'll handle in the future. A file manager and this is one thing, of course, that confuses the hell out of me. I mean, are these similar? What's the big difference between a file manager and files? And of course, your terminal emulator. You do have a few games that come with. I put Steam in as I'm going to do a couple of experiments. I'm not going to record them. I'm simply going to be fiddling around with this. You can mess with your graphics. You've got an image viewer, simple scan, document viewer. One thing I've noticed, this distro does not actually have any real like manipulation sort of apps, Photoshop sort of. It's, you know, lacking in that. Some distributions have just a whole load of tools and apps that allow you to manipulate files and video. This is not one of them. You will actually have to go out and install them yourself, which of course isn't that big of a deal. And here are some nice little internet gadgets you can use. It has something for torrent, an internet messenger. You can download audio and video. I'm gonna have to check that out, find out what that's all about. Great little radio player. Firefox, of course, came with it. And yes, I know I put in Google Chrome. I know that there's a lot of people that cringe every time they see Linux with Google Chrome. You know, it just doesn't seem to go together. I'm finding out a lot of people have this very strong opinion of that. Multimedia, you've got Audacious for a audio player. Cheese, I'm not sure if that's a webcam program or what. I will have to look at that one of these days. But as you see, it does come with a nice array of audio-visual, multimedia programs. Even something to burn to CD or DVD in the form of Brasero. This is also something that is different. When you initially get Soren OS, you don't have LibreOffice, which I found to be a little strange. But then again, I'm sure that if, you can go and download it and install it. And I'm not sure exactly what Wine Tricks is, but I'm pretty sure it has something to do with the Wine app that is oftentimes seen on Linux distros. XFSC. I wonder, okay, maybe this is my clue right here. This perhaps is an XFCE desktop environment that was set up specifically for Chalet OS. I will have to look deeper into that. So far, I mean, I haven't really used Chalet OS a lot, but it does seem to be fairly easy to use, even though, as I pointed out, there are some strange, it looks almost like repetitions, almost like you have different versions of the same functioning um, program. Like when it came to File Manager and files, it's like, okay, what's the difference? It's things like this that, of course, I think will challenge new users. Even if they go to a distribution that is very Windows-esque, there, of course, will be certain things that are going to confuse the daylights out of us. So, with that said, I'm going to, again, try to get Bodhi to run on my virtual machine. So, if not, the next part will be Linux Mint. So, here we go. Okay, so here we are looking at Bodhi Linux. And again, I'm going to confess, I have not really used this particular distribution a whole lot, so there's very little I know about it. One of the interesting things I found about Bodhi is that this right here, this thing called Midori, is a web browser. I had I had never heard of Midori. I really don't know pros, cons, or anything. Of course, I went and, like I'm sure a lot of people are going to say, I've ruined my Linux by throwing in, yes, you guessed it. But again, very Windows-esque. You've got, this the panel / taskbar. User programs will probably go over here. System configurations over here. I don't know if I mentioned this about Linux, but new users will find this very interesting. Is that I mentioned desktop environments, but you can also have different workspaces. I found this to be, I suppose, if you are using Linux on a single screen, a single monitor system, or just like a laptop or something, this would probably be, excuse me, a benefit. I'm not going to log in right this second. But let's say, for whatever reason, you're doing a term paper, or writing a letter, writing some fan fiction, porn, whatever, and you're doing some investigation, you're doing your research. You can have your browser in this workspace. And when you need to do any typing in whatever word processor you're using over here, it can be on this workspace. So just a matter of a click will switch you between workplaces, or workspaces, I should say. And I like that. I had heard that Windows has something similar, but I've never really bothered to look into it because I have two monitors, and I also tend to have a laptop hooked into another monitor. So I pretty much have my options on how exactly I'm going to bounce between my research and my actual writing. Or apparently the desktop environment is Moksha. I know absolutely nothing about it. Again, that's going to be for another video. Of course, you change your wallpapers and your themes. You have some gadgets. what little I know about this particular distribution, it's very interesting. It has pretty much all of the other items you will find in Linux. So that's Bodhi. I can't really make an opinion on this one yet. I've used Chalet a lot more than I've used this. This is somewhat of a recent acquisition, so perhaps in another video I will be able to give a better opinion of this operating system. So, moving along to another version, one that is actually pretty well known and quite popular for new people switching over from Windows, is Linux Mint. So let's have a look at this. And here we have Linux Mint. This is probably one of the most popular versions that have derived from Ubuntu, and is one, as I understand, a good many people, usually Windows users, this is what they are often told to go to if they really want to start into Linux without being confused by the desktop environment of Ubuntu and having to deal with Unity. This is the Cinnamon desktop environment. Gonna have to remember to mention that one in that upcoming video. Again, very much familiar for Windows users, or former Windows users, however you want to be, with user apps over here, system based configuration over here, and of course your clock, and the ever friendly menu button. In look and feel and function, it pretty well hits the mark when it comes to how the interface is. It's very friendly. You know, you've got your compartments, which are actually quite intuitive, I have found. When I went and ruined Linux, of course, so I actually find in Linux, in most distributions, there's a certain intuitive quality when you're installing certain things. Like when I went and ruined Linux again, it went right here into the compartment marked Internet. I didn't have to move it, it was just right there. And I really appreciate that. I like that. I don't have to really, do a lot to get something where I want it. You, of course, you have a very large selection of accessories, which is just a good thing. So many of these are very familiar to the Windows user. Of course, the character map, information and quick access to your disks, your files. It has a little compartment for games. Right now, of course, Steam. Simply, as I said, I'm doing a few little experiments, which I'm sure it would work a lot better if I wasn't running it in a virtual machine. That will come in time. Under graphics, it has the GIMP image editor, which is an open source Photoshop analog, I suppose. I've actually been using it a little bit, and it takes a little getting used to, but I kind of like it. There's a lot of functionality in it that I'm slowly getting used to. So yeah, I like this. Pix allows you to view and organize your images. Yes, I did read that underneath. Of course, simple scan for, of course, scanning documents. As in most distributions, and as we've seen, and not all distributions have this by default, the whole LibreOffice suite, which is quite nice. I've actually found that the word processor, if you have files in other formats, whether it's Microsoft's Word formats or what I've been using for years, Corel WordPerfect. Don't even ask why. It's just something I've used since way back in the early MS-DOS / Windows 3.1 days. I've never really given up WordPerfect. Sound and video, you again have Brazero, however, Brazier, as your CD and DVD creator copier. You've got a fairly generic media player, but it works well. It plays a great many formats, as does VLC. You will see a lot of distributions with VLC and Rhythmbox, which is like your multimedia player, your audio player, usually your video player. And then, of course, all of your administration selections here. Terminal update. I do love this. Update manager. Linux is so much easier to deal with when it comes to updates. Linux does not necessarily get very pushy on you when it comes to updating. You have the control. It's basically up to you. Do you want to go and update today? You can always wait till another day. It's not going to constantly bug the living daylights out of you. Nor will it make you wait for freaking ever after you log off to actually do the updates. It's certainly not going to force you to log off in the middle of doing something. Again, definite plus points for Linux. Preferences, of course, you know, these are your little tweaks that you can do. And I love the fact that there's Bluetooth settings. I don't even think I have either of my computers have Bluetooth capability, but you know, it's nice to know what's there if I ever change anything. Built-in firewall that you can configure, your display, effects, keyboard, so on and so forth. Overall, I would agree this is probably the best distribution for new people to start. Even though there are probably there are people who, you know, for whatever reason, their own personal preferences is a different distro, or you know, maybe they prefer Fedora and the distros that are based on that. Maybe they like Arch Linux and the distros that are based on that, whatever. My own personal feeling, I guess as a new user myself, is right here. Linux Mint. This is actually, I'm not going to lie, this is one of the versions I've been using the most. And I really like it. I really do love the functionality. So I'm going to cap this off by looking at Zorin, which is another very good operating system, a distribution for users coming off of Windows and discovering Linux. So let's have a look there. And finally, for this video, here is Soren OS, this is another very Windows-esque distribution based on Ubuntu, and again, got your panel slash taskbar. Okay, that's what it was. Taskbar. Oh, see, this is what Linux is doing to me. It's making me forget things about Windows. I'm sure there are a few people that are going to just, you know, giggle and rub their hands together saying, yes, we have another one. One of us, one of us. I'm getting there, folks. One thing I noticed about Zorin that was unusual, right there, it came packaged with Chromium, which is like a I guess you would say it's the open source sort of beta testing version of Chrome. What really separates Chromium from Chrome is that Chromium does not come with a certain, I guess, codecs, maybe protocols is a good word for it. I don't know, my mind is sort of locking up a little bit at this moment, but there are certain features that are packaged in Chrome that do not come in Chromium. But it sort of surprised me that a distribution would come prepackaged with something I was familiar with. I mean, as you see here, there is absolutely no Firefox to be seen, which surprised me. I was very surprised. Of course, you have Geary, which I believe is your email client, Empathy for instant messaging. Not certain what that is. Web browser manager, perhaps? And it does, of course, come with a nice selection of accessories. It even comes with some games. Comes with, of course, it comes with GIMP. It has the entire LibreOffice suite, so Draw is included, as well as the Simple Scan. A calendar and contact app, along with the LibreOffice suite. Comes with several programs for multimedia. Brasero, again. Cheese. I really need to look into this program, find out exactly what it is. Pitivi, I guess this is, I don't know, maybe this is a multimedia sort of program, similar to VLC? I don't know. Rhythmbox comes with this and a, well, generic video player, I suppose. But if it's anything else like I've seen on Linux, it probably will play pretty much every and any format. Your system tools, which it has a very nice selection. I'm seeing this. I wonder if this is based on KDE for the desktop environment. Wine. I did not really see this in the distros I've mentioned before, but this is something, if you have programs that are done up for Windows, you can still use them, but you'll be using them through Wine, which is, as I understand it, it's something of an intermediary. It is what will allow a Windows app to run in a Linux environment. I have not used this myself. That's going to be for another day. I swear I am going to work on actually finding out what some of these apps that I've mentioned and admitted that I don't know what the hell they are. I will get around to actually figuring out how to use them. So this pretty much wraps it up. These are the versions based off of Ubuntu, and you know, I do, again, I like the variety of distributions. To me, this is something that, of course, Windows lacks, because I've said it before. With Windows, you just get Windows, boom, you know what you're getting. There may be some new features, there may be some tweaks, there may be some, you know, visual differences, but again, you're getting Windows. You're getting Microsoft Windows. With Linux, yes, you are getting Linux, but you have a wide variety of distributions that you can try out, investigate, and see if it works for you. So that's going to be it for this video. My next video, I will actually go into two different, I guess, main distros and the derivatives. I will be talking about Fedora, Corora, and for Arch Linux, I will be showing Manjaro in the KDE environment and explaining why I actually have it in that environment. But I hope that this was fairly informative, given my limited knowledge. And if anybody else is just coming into Linux, you know, you're not alone. You're definitely in good company. Linux users are a very large community, and generally, if you have any questions, no matter how simple it may seem to a user of Linux who has really mastered this operating system, they'll be more than happy to help you out. So, with that in mind, that's it for this video. Please feel free to comment below, like and share this video, and I will be back soon with another episode. So, until then, I'm Nariko Murakami. See ya.